Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Good morning and good afternoon, good evening. First of all, I would like to turn my thanks to Venerable Sumitra, the founder of the Dhamma USA, and also Sirinanda, who is hosting the meeting today. And also, thank you very much for inviting me today. The participants all around the world, wish you the great blessings of the Buddha, Dhamma, and the Sangha. We are going to start the 54th Dhamma session, Dhamma Talk, through Dhamma USA. So, as Sirinanda mentioned earlier, the topic of my talk today is the path to Nibbāṇa, Noble Eightfold Path. Everyone who knows about the Buddhism, they know exactly the teachings of the Buddha and the Noble Eightfold Path. That's the basic and the core teachings of the Buddha. And as we know that every institution and every organization, every practice, they have a vision and also the mission. The vision is that their destination and also their aim, their target, what they are going to achieve. And the mission is the practice they need to follow, they need to fulfill to achieve that target. So in Buddhism also we can find that Buddhism has teachings of the Buddha, has a vision and also the mission. The vision is to get rid of the suffering and end of the cycle of rebirth and also attain the enlightenment, Nibbāṇa. So in this Dhamma talk, I used various suttas in the Pali Buddhist canon, which is talking about the Noble Eightfold Path, and also I used the translation of Venerable Bhikkhu Bodhi, and also I used the book written by Venerable Bhikkhu Bodhi about the Noble Eightfold Path. It has a lot of information. So when you think about the Buddha as an ascetic, the Gautama ascetic, when he was looking for the liberation, Nibbāṇa, not only the ascetic Gautama, all the teachers and all the spiritual leaders who were looking for the liberation or the moksha at that time in India, all of them were looking for one thing, that is King Satya and King Kusala. What is the truth and what is the wholesome? That was their main topic. So the ascetic Gautama was also looking for the truth of the world, truth of the life, and also what is wholesome. So when we look at the first teaching of the Buddha, the first discourse of the Buddha, what is known as the Dhammacakkappavattana Sutta, at the very first the Buddha mentions that there are two extremes. The followers, those who are looking for the liberation, they need to get rid of. But two, the pursuit of sensual happiness, what we call Kamasukhallikāna Yoga, it is described as which is low, hino, and vulgar, dhammo, and the way of worldlings, both janiko, ignoble, unbeneficial, anariyo, anatta sangita. The other extreme, which is called the pursuit of self-mortification, Atta-Kilamatthana Yoga, it is described as which is painful, dukkho, and ignoble, anariyo, unbeneficial, anatta sangita. So Buddha uses these words to define these two practices because no one can get rid of the suffering using these two extremes. That's why the Buddha followed the middle way. What we call the middle way is the Noble Eightfold Path. So we know that in Buddhism, the vision is to get rid of the suffering, attain the liberation or the Nibbāṇa, and the mission is the Noble Eightfold Path. That is the path. Without veering towards either of these three extremes, the Tathagata has awakened to the middle way, which gives rise to vision, which gives rise to knowledge, which leads to peace, to direct knowledge, to enlightenment, to Nibbāṇa. It is on the Dhammacakkappavattana Sutta. So then, when you look at the Dhammacakkappavattana Sutta, it mentions the Noble Eightfold Path. It has 8 steps, 8 components: right view, right intention, right speech, right action, right livelihood, right effort, right mindfulness, right concentration, which is called the middle way. So when you look at the steps in the Noble Eightfold Path, we can see here 80 steps. And also we know that in the practice of the Buddhism, there are 3 steps. It is called Trishiksha. It's a gradual development, which is known as Sila, Samadhi, and Panya: moral conduct, concentration, and wisdom. And when we divide the Noble Eightfold Path into these 3 steps, we can see that right view and right intention is under the Panya, and the right speech, right action, and right livelihood is under the Sila or moral conduct. And right effort, right mindfulness, right concentration is under the Samadhi. So if we look at the order, we can see that even though the Trishiksha should be Sila, Samadhi, and Panya, but the steps in the Noble Eightfold Path, it comes the Panya at the beginning, and then Sila, then Samadhi. So sometimes people are thinking why that wisdom is in the top, and then Sila, and then Samadhi. There's a reason, so I will explain the reason later. And right now we can understand that these 8 steps, 8 components, we need to practice together. I mean, together as a whole, that becomes very strong and becomes very beneficial for the practice. Hello. And also, in the Mahācattarisika Sutta, the Buddha mentions that each part of the Noble Eightfold Path, there are 2 ways of practice. One way is called the mundane level, and the other way is called the noble level. Sometimes it is mentioned as Lokuttara and Lokiya. The Lokiya, or the mundane level, is which is affected by pains, partaking of merit, ripening in the acquisitions. Sometimes it is mentioned as Kammasakata Samadhi or Kammasakata Attankamagga. And also there is right noble. That means it is noble, painless, supramundane, a factor of the path. It's leading to the directly to the liberation, the Nibbāṇa. Now when we look at the right view, the Sammaditthi, we know that the Ditti, the view, is very important. It's kind of like a vision. If we have the right vision, we can get to the destination correctly without any problem. In the same way, when we are practicing the Buddhism, we need to understand what is the vision of the Buddhism. What is the right view that we need to develop? We need to create within ourselves. So when you look at the Sammaditthi in the Buddha's dispensation or the Buddhist doctrine, in various suttas we can find the Sammaditthi. Sometimes the Sammaditthi is divided in 2, as I mentioned earlier: mundane right view, Lokika Sammaditthi, and superior right view, Lokuttara Sammaditthi. And some other places you can see the 6-fold Sammaditthi. It has 6 factors. And also in another place we can see in the Sammaditthi Sutta 16-fold Sammaditthi. So we look at the mundane level, mundane right view, Lokika Sammaditthi. It's mainly based on the karma. It is called the Kammasakata Sammaditthi. That means understanding of the karma, the law of the karma. We know that the basic rule of the karma is when we are doing something good with good intention, the result will be good. When we are doing something unwholesome or bad with unwholesome intention, the result will be bad. So this is the basic understanding of the karma. So as long as we have this understanding, we are fear. We try to get rid of the doing bad actions, immoral actions, because we know that if you commit to any unwholesome action, we have to have the pollution as suffering. And also, if we are doing something very good with wholesome thoughts, with right intention, the result will be good. It will bring the happiness for us. So this is the right view that we need to have at the beginning. But when we talk about the superior right view or the Lokottara Samadhi, that Lokottara Samadhi means something beyond that, something deeper than that. That means the understanding of the Four Noble Truths. The suffering, we know that the suffering is the first noble truth of the Buddhist teachings. Suffering, the Buddha defines suffering as birth is suffering, aging is suffering, illness is suffering, death is suffering, union with what is displeasing is suffering, separation from what is pleasing is suffering, not to get to what one wants is suffering. In brief, the five aggregates subject to clinging are suffering. This is defined as the suffering. So this is the truth of the suffering. Then what is the cause of suffering? The cause of suffering is the origin of suffering. This is the craving. It leads to renewed existence, accompanied by delight and lust, seeking delight here and there. That is craving for sensual pleasures, craving for existence, and craving for examination. So the third noble truth, the cessation of suffering. That means it is the remainderless fading away and cessation of the same craving. And then the fourth noble truth, the path leading to cessation of suffering, which is called the Noble Eightfold Path. So when someone is in the superior right view, Lokottara Samadhi, that means he has understanding of the Four Noble Truths. And some other places we can see the right view Samadhi as six aspects. So the first one is Kamma Sakata Samadhi, that means understanding of the karma and the reaction, action and reaction, and cause and effect. And also it has mentioned that Chatusatya Samadhi, understanding about the Four Noble Truths, and Vipassana Samadhi, understanding of the insight knowledge, and also the Jhana Samadhi, insight about the Jhana, absorptions, and the Magga Samadhi, understanding about the Magga, and the Phala Samadhi, understanding of the fruition, attainments, like that. So we can see here the Kammasakata Samadhi is, as we discussed earlier, it is the mundane level, and Chatusatya, Vipassana, Jhana, Magga, and Phala, those are really definitely directed to the noble level for the liberation. And in the Samadhi Sutta, there are 16, we can see the 16-fold Samadhi. That means Samadhi is discussed in 16 ways. And the first Buddha mentions that the Kammapata, that means when someone has a good understanding of what is wholesome and what is unwholesome. What are the roots of the wholesome? What are the roots of the unwholesome? If someone has this understanding, he is in the Samadhi. Buddha mentioned like that. And then the Ahara. Ahara means the nutrition or feed to the physical body and also the mental factors. Also Dukkha, Jara Marana, aging and death, Jati, birth, Bhava, being, Upadana, clinging, Tanha, craving, Vedana, feeling, Passa, contact, Salayatana, the sixfold base, Namarupa, materiality and mentality, Vijnana, consciousness, Sankhara, formations, Avijja, ignorance, Asava, taints. The Buddha mentions here, if someone has understanding of pricing of these kind of things, these parts, and also the origin and the reason and the cessation and the path to the cessation. If someone has this fourfold understanding about each aspect, he has good understanding. As an example, if someone knows what is Jara Marana, what is aging and death, and if that person knows what is the reason for the aging and death, and if that person knows what is the cessation of aging and death, and if that person knows how to get rid of that aging and death. So the Buddha says that if he has that understanding, he's in the right view. So in that way, Buddha explains in the Samadhi Sutta these 16 aspects, 16 parts. So according to that, when someone has a good understanding about these 16 things, that person is in the samadhi or in the right view. So as I mentioned earlier, the samadhi, the right view, is very important. That because it is the it is the first part, and it gives the right direction to lead to follow the other aspects of the path. So then we move to right intention, samma sankappa. Samma sankappa is also under the wisdom, and at the beginning we can see the mundane level also the nikkamma, avyapada, avihimsa, the intention of renunciation, the intention of goodwill, and intention of harmlessness. They are very important for the peaceful society and also the peaceful mind in mundane level. If you practice to give up that what we have and reduce the attachment, reduce the desires, and if we can reduce the power of the vyapada or the hatred, and reduce the power of the revenging others, so and developing the compassion and loving kindness and generosity, these are good qualities for practicing in this life for the mundane happiness. When you go to the noble level, the noble practitioners, they are practicing and developing these thoughts because they are looking for the enlightenment. They are looking for the liberation. So they give up everything what they have, and they have no any hatred, they have no delusion. They are looking for the ultimate bliss. So in these two levels, the right intention, the samma sankappa, is very important. Then you look at the right speech, samma vacha, and right action, samma kammanta, and right livelihood. So we can see here right speech and right action and right livelihood. Those are called, or those are under the section of sila or moral conduct. We know that the purpose of sila, purpose of moral conduct, is to control our physical body, or the actions of the physical body and the actions of the speech. So we are doing the actions through our physical body and our speech, and also through our mind. So we can see here, doing the right actions, that means the and also the right speech, these are generally considered as we are doing through our physical body and the speech. So the right speech are abstaining from false speech, musavada veramani, abstaining from slanderous speech, pisuna vacha veramani, abstaining from harsh speech, parusa vacha veramani, and abstaining from idle chatter, sampapalapa veramani. So when somebody practices this good speech, right speech, refrain from the bad speech, immoral speech, unwholesome speech, that means gradually the person's inner peace develops, because he is not intended to do any kind of harsh speech and unwholesome speech, unpleasant speech towards somebody, because that kind of speech can pollute our mind, pollute our inner peace. And also in the noble level, the noble practitioners, then when they are practicing the right speech, they understand that they are developing the right speech, and also they are practicing and developing the effort, and also they are practicing and developing the mindfulness also. In the right action section, we can see the samma kammanta, abstaining from taking of life, panatipata veramani, abstaining from taking what is not given, adinadana veramani, abstaining from sexual misconduct, kamesu michachara veramani. We can see that these are the three basic unwholesome actions we are doing through our physical body. So abstaining from them, refraining from them, which are called the right action. So we know that, as you mentioned earlier, if we are committed to do these kind of physical actions, that means they are demerits, they are unwholesome actions, and they obtain suffering as the result. So as the beings who are looking for the happiness, as the beings who are looking for the spiritual development, as the beings who are looking for the liberation, we need to get rid of these unwholesome actions and develop the right actions within ourselves. In that way, we are developing gradually the sila, the moral conduct within ourselves. Then the right livelihood, samma ajiva, abstaining from unethical trading, trading in weapons, trading in living beings, trading in meat, trading in liquor, and trading in poison. As mentioned in the Vanijja Sutta, these kind of 5 kinds of unethical tradings are mentioned as micha ajiva. So get rid of all these things. And also in the Mahajattarika Sutta, it mentions what is right livelihood is what bhikkhus is a wrong livelihood: scheming, talking, hinting, belittling, pursuing gain with gain. This is wrong livelihood. So without doing these kind of wrong actions or wrong livelihood, when someone urged to earn in the correct way, in the proper way, in the wholesome way, that person can be happy about what he's doing, and that person can be happy about the gain that he's gaining in this lifetime. And in the noble level, the right livelihood is that the noble practitioners, they are practicing, they are always doing the good things, the good actions, and also once they are doing and practicing and developing the actions like that, their effort and their mindfulness and their concentration, it will be developed. Then we come to the right effort, samma vayama. We know that we have effort, we have endeavors in the life to achieve the various goals in the life. Everyone has effort to do something in the life. So in the samma vayama section, we can see the right efforts that Buddha mentioned us to develop in the mundane level and also in the noble level. The first one is called to prevent the rising of unrisen, unwholesome states. That means if any kind of unwholesome states they have already arisen, try to get rid of them. And also, if any kind of unwholesome thoughts which are not arisen yet, try to abandon them. That's a good practice. That is a good effort. It is difficult, sometimes it will be hard, but we need to develop. We need to try again and again. That is called the right effort. And also, if any kind of wholesome states that have not arisen it in your mind, within yourself, you need to try to develop that wholesome states within yourself. And if there's any wholesome thoughts that you have already, you need to try and work for that, to develop that states again and again. In the noble level, this is kind of effort to develop the concentration, develop the mindfulness, and also develop the inner peace, and develop that effort to get rid of the suffering. So that effort is very important, as in mundane level as also in the noble level. We can see that the sila section and also the right effort also very important to achieve the mundane goals in our life, because we can see that all around the world people are struggling with various problems. Most of the problems based on the greed, hatred, and delusion, unsatisfactoriness, and they are looking for the happiness that they cannot achieve any time in the day, in the world, in their life, because always that kind of happiness is based on greed and hatred and delusion. And then the right mindfulness, which is called the samma sati. The mindfulness is a very important and popular topic to these days. We know that, because everyone is talking about the mindfulness and everyone is looking for the happiness of the mind in this stressful lifestyle. They are looking for the kind of pleasure in their day-to-day life. And sometimes people defines the mindfulness as living in the present moment, and they are mindful when they are doing anything. maybe while they are eating and walking and sleeping, and when they are doing everything, they would like to be mindful. That's a good practice. Actually, the mindfulness is also, we can divide into mundane level and also in the noble level, Lokottara level. So when we talk about the mindfulness in mundane level, that means, as I mentioned earlier, in our regular daily basis, sometimes we are very busy, and we are within a lot of problems. We are thinking about the past, and we are thinking about our future plans. Based on that, a lot of time we are not living in the present moment. We are living in the past or in the future. So the mindfulness is very important to practice as mundane level to heal our mind, to live in the present moment. And the meaning of the mindfulness in the mundane level and also in the noble level, the mindfulness means awareness of the physical body and the mind, awareness of your physical body and the actions of your mind, what's happening inside your mind and what you are doing right now. So this is the thing that we understand when we develop mindfulness. So in the Buddhist teachings, we can see that the four mindfulness in Satipatthana Sutta, establishment of the mindfulness, we can see the four kinds of mindfulness: contemplation of the body, Kayanupassana, and contemplation of the feeling, Vedananupassana, contemplation of the state of mind, Chittanupassana, contemplation of phenomena, Dhammanupassana. So according to these steps, at the first step, we develop our understanding, our awareness towards our physical body, the movements of the body, and what happens inside our body, what happens to our body. And also then we contemplate about our mental actions, about our feelings and the state of mind, and also the phenomena or the Dhamma. So when we develop in these ways, this mindfulness in mundane level and also in the noble level, we can be quiet, we can be calm, we can be peaceful. That kind of mindfulness is indeed for the peaceful society, peaceful life. When we think about the noble level, that right mindfulness is very important for the concentration, and also to understand the state of mind, what kind of thoughts I'm thinking, what kind of thoughts are coming into my mind, what kind of thoughts I'm developing in my mind. So that's why the right mindfulness is very important for us. So then we come to the final part of the Noble Eightfold Path, which is called the right concentration, Samma Samadhi. When the Buddha mentions about the Samma Samadhi, in the Saccavibhanga Sutta, he mentions about the first jhana and the Dutiya jhana and Tatiya jhana and the fourth jhana, absorptions, we can call absorptions, or the concentration. So we know that there are jhana factors, what we call the vitakka, vichara, piti, sukha, and ekaggata. These are the factors that help to achieve into this jhana. In the first jhana, we know that initial application of the mind, vitakka, and sustained application of mind, vichara, and rapture, piti, happiness, sukha, and one-pointedness, ekaggata, those all together, we can attain to the first Patama jhana, first jhana. Then without vitakka, we can go to the second jhana, Dutiya jhana, and without vitakka and vichara, we can go to Tatiya jhana. Then again, sukha and ekaggata in the Chaturtha jhana. So the Buddha mentioned that in the gradual development of the concentration, the practitioner can be able to attain into the fourth jhana. So that absorption is very powerful, and that absorption is very important to awaken the wisdom. So we need to understand here, if you look at the Eightfold Noble Path here, the right concentration, Samma Samadhi, it is under concentration, but it is not under the wisdom. So as I mentioned you earlier, why the Samma Samadhi, the right effort, right mindfulness, and right concentration are under the Samma Samadhi, and the Panya or the wisdom is on the right view and intention. So usually this is what happens when we are in the right concentration. That means samma samadhi. Still we are in the concentration. We are not in the wisdom. This concentration is very important to develop the panya or the wisdom. So if somebody practice the Noble Eightfold Path in the mundane level, that person comes to concentration, then again he can go to the right view. With the concentration, we can develop the right view in the supramundane level or in the ultimate level, in the noble level. That right view is the view and understanding that we need to develop and practice for developing the awakening the wisdom or panya. That is called the eradication of the avidya. Okay, so so to develop the panya or wisdom or awaken the wisdom, it is very important to understand the link or the connection between the defilements and also the practice. So the Buddha mentions that there are 3 levels or 3 stages that the defilements are stored in our mind, or defilements are working in our mind. If we look at the bottom, we can see here the stage of transgression, vitikama. Vitikama is the level that the defilements are working in our day-to-day life, in our day-to-day activities. We can see how the defilements are working, come out with our actions. When we are angry, when we are happy, when we are upset, when we are stressed, we can see the reactions of ourselves. Sometimes we cannot see that, but other people can notice that. Now he is in anger. Now he's very upset. Now he's very greedy. People can watch and they can determine that what kind of mentality we have right now. So when we are in the moral discipline, when we are in the sila, when we are practicing sila, so we are able to subdue the power of this vitikama defilements by the power of the moral conduct or the discipline. So that is the power of the sila. That means if we have right understanding of the karma, and if we know that if we are doing something very bad, immoral, we have to have the bad result. We have to have the suffering as the fruition. So then we are scared of doing that kind of bad action. So therefore, even though the background is set to do some kind of bad action, we discipline ourselves. We practice moral conduct. we escape or we refrain killing living beings, stealing things from others, like that. So this is called the vitikama. So the vitikama klesha, vitikama defilements can be eradicated or subdued by the power of the moral discipline. And then we can see the pariyutthana. Pariyutthana means the stage of manifestation. That means some kind of defilements, they are arising, but in the mundane level, we cannot see that arising. In the mundane level, we can only understand the vitikama klesha through the actions. But in the pariyutthana level, we cannot see them. Only when we are in the concentration, we can understand them. As an example, when you are practicing the mindfulness, when you are aware of your physical body and the mind, when you are aware of your mind, your thoughts, you will be able to understand what kind of thoughts I have in my mind. Then you can only understand that when you are in the concentration or when you are in the mindfulness. So that's why the concentration is very important to understand the pariyutthana defilements, the stage of the manifestation defilements. So we can see that in some meditation techniques also, the Buddha mentions that we need to aware of the mind and understand the thoughts that are dealing in our mind, that are coming up in our mind. Then you go to the final level, developing the wisdom. There are some thoughts, there are some defilements in our mind. Those are called the stage of latent tendency. Those thoughts are kind of dormant thoughts. Those are called the anusaya. So the anusaya thoughts, anusaya defilements, we cannot see them. They are kind of dormant, and suddenly they can wake up and come out. So with developing the wisdom, only we can eradicate them, we can understand them, we can subdue them. So that's why the developing wisdom is very important. So that's why I mentioned earlier in the Noble Eightfold Path, when someone practices the right effort, right mindfulness, and right concentration, in this level, they can eradicate the upcoming manifesting defilements. And for the dormant defilements, they need to go to this level and panya level. In that level, we create the right view and right intention, especially the right view of the world, the right view of the life, the right view of the beings. That right view is very important. That right view is very deep, and we can see that that is the real nature of the beings and the world. The term vipassana, or insight comes to that level. That means we can look at the world, we can look at the things, we can look at the beings insightfully. That means when you look at insightfully, we can understand that everything is under the three characteristics, what we call the anicca, dukkha, and anatta. Anicca means impermanence, and dukkha means suffering, unsatisfactoriness, and anatta means no self. When we look at when you think about the anicca, impermanence, we can see here that everything is impermanent. We know that as a basic rule, we know that everything is impermanent because everything is changing. In the ultimate level, we can understand that even our mind and thoughts are impermanent. Not only the mind and the thoughts, all the single perception that we perceive is impermanent. And simply we say that the consciousness is impermanent. Because when we see something, when we hear something, when we smell something, when we taste something, when we feel something in our physical body, once we understand that feeling, and once we clarify it, this first thought, it has already ceased. When we understand this, when we understand it, the first thought is already ceased. That is called the impermanent. But we think that the first thought is still there. As an example, when someone blames you, the person blames on one time, at a time, maybe a few seconds. But we keep it in our mind, and we remind it, we remember it again and again. We recall it again and again. But we feel that the same person is blaming us in the same way again and again. Is still blaming us. So that is called ignorance. That means we are living in the past, and we don't understand that consciousness has already ceased. That consciousness is already dead. But we still think that consciousness is still alive. So this is common to everything that we perceive through our sense organs, through our senses, through our eyes, through our ears, through our nose, through our tongue, through our physical body. What we experience from the outside of the world, every consciousness we create is impermanent. But because of the ignorance, because of the avijja, we think that those consciousnesses are permanent. That's why we are creating the suffering within ourselves. That's why the Buddha mentioned that the suffering is created by yourself. Suffering is created because of the delusion, because of the avijja. So the ultimate purpose of the Noble Eightfold Path is to clarify, identify this ignorance and get rid of that ignorance. So the all parts of the Noble Eightfold Path is to give you the understanding and also the practice how to understand that impermanence, and also the suffering and no self, that three characteristics of the life. So once you get to that level, that means once you develop your insight, vipassana, that is the way to get rid of the sufferings. That is the way to end of the samsara, cycle of rebirth, the Nibbāṇa. So that's why the practice of Noble Eightfold Path is very important. It is either in the mundane level or in the noble level. Sometimes people develop and practice the Eightfold Noble Path in the mundane level. It's beneficial because it has you can acquire a lot of merits, and you can have a happy life and successful life, and also your samsaric journey will be safe, or will be successful some certain of period. But we know that samsara is not a good place. That's why the Buddha mentioned that I don't recommend the samsara. I don't say that the samsara is a good place, because it is very dangerous, and everywhere you can see the impermanence. So that's why the Buddha urges us to develop the inner peace and develop the wisdom, waken up the wisdom, and get rid of the samsaric journey, get rid of the sufferings, the Nibbāṇa. So I hope that this brief introduction to Noble Eightfold Path is important for you, and it gave you some ideas that to think about. You think about that again and again. By the blessings of the Buddha, Dhamma, and Sangha, I wish may you be well, happy, and peaceful. May you be able to get rid of the liberation, Nibbāṇa. Sadhu, sadhu,
sadhu, sadhu. Thank you.
Bhavatu sabba mangalam rakhantu sabba devata sabba buddhanubhavena sabba dhammanubhavena sabba sanghanubhavena sada sati bhavantu te.
Thank you very much, Venerable Sirinanda, for this profound speech on the Noble Eightfold Path. I'm sure our Dhamma friends around the world who benefited today. We will now take up your questions, and we encourage you to post your questions in simple language on the Dhamma USA YouTube channel. Okay. So we have a question. Why is Sammaditthi at the beginning of the Noble Eightfold Path?
Oh, you mean the word Sammaditthi?
Yes.
Oh yeah. The Sammaditthi is in the beginning of the Noble Eightfold Path. That means to practice the Noble Eightfold Path, to practice the other parts of the path, you need to understand about the Dhamma. If you don't have the understanding of the Dhamma, cause and effect, we are not going to follow kind of practice in the Noble Eightfold Path, because that's the basic understanding about the world. So that's why the Buddha mentions that the Kamma Sakata Sammaditthi is very important. That is the basic understanding of the Kamma. So that's why the Buddha mentions that when somebody has the understanding of the Kamma, what is the Kamma, what the Kamma is, and also what are the good Kamma and what are the bad Kamma and what are the results of them. If somebody has that understanding, it is called the it's also called samadhi. So when you have that samadhi at the beginning, then only we are going to follow the next steps of the path. So that's why the samadhi at the beginning level, at the beginner's level, samadhi and samma sankappa comes at the top of the Noble Eightfold Path.
Oh, sorry. Samma Samadhi has jhanas and sammapatis. How important are they for the attainment of Nibbāṇa?
Can you repeat or can you type the question? I can't hear clearly.
The question, Bhante, is Samma Samadhi has jhanas and sammapatis. How important are they for the attainment of Nibbāṇa?
I hear the question not much clear as I heard it. I think that the question is asking about the jhana and samapati.
Sammapatis.
Yeah, it's in the samma samadhi. Yeah, in the samma samadhi we can see the Buddha mentions how important they are for the Nibbāṇa. Yes, actually, in the gradual path, we can see that the Buddha mentions the gradual paths in the samadhi and panya. So in the gradual path, the concentration is the second path, the second step. The Buddha mentions that when someone has the jhana and samapati, that's very important. It's very important to develop the concentration, and that concentration is very important to develop the awakening of the wisdom. But we can see in some instances, without developing the jhana and samapati, people can attain the Nibbāṇa. So when someone was listening to the Dhamma, even they can attain the Nibbāṇa. And we can see that through some stories of the Buddhist literature, some followers, they attain the liberation, they enlighten, just hearing the one word from the Buddha, just hearing the one stanza from the Buddha. Because they have developed their faculties in their previous life, so they are in kind of a final level to touch the Nibbāṇa. That's why once they heard the one word from the Buddha, they could realize the Nibbāṇa. So, but otherwise, this is the proper way that the Buddha mentions, the Sila, Samadhi, and Panya. If we are going in that way, the Samadhi and the Jhana are very important.
Thank you, Bhante, for answering that question. Looking for more questions. Yes, Bhante, I have a question, or rather an opinion maybe that you would like to address. In the West, more people come to the Dhamma through meditation in the beginning, and they maybe do go for the Sila later, or they do Dana later. What's your opinion, or what's your impression of this? How people here are attracted to the meditation first, the Samadhi, and how could they also do the Sila and the Pratnya as well later in their practice? Is there a problem with that, or what's your opinion on this?
No, actually, even though that is the gradual way, Sila, Samadhi, and Prajna, we can see some people, they are not following that way, because sometimes they don't practice Sila, but they are trying to develop the mindfulness, so practicing meditation like that. But if we are in practicing the Sila or moral conduct, it is very easy to develop the concentration and mindfulness. And sometimes people, usually the traditional followers, we observe the precepts, and we are going to observe the precepts, and we develop the precepts, the moral conduct, and then we try to concentrate and develop the concentration and wisdom. So that's the proper way. But some people, they don't really observe the precepts, but they have a kind of control. They have kind of self-discipline. But we don't understand them as the precepts. But with that kind of self-conduct, self-moral conduct, they can develop the mindfulness, or they can develop the concentration. That would be beneficial, because in the West, mostly we don't see that people are observing precepts or protecting precepts, but we don't know exactly intentionally inside in their inside if they are practicing or not. But we can see some practitioners in the West, they are doing their practice is in very well. Yeah.
Yeah, I agree, Bhante. I believe that when you practice some kind of precepts, the idea is to feel blameless, and when you feel blameless, you're protecting yourself and others around you, and then you can practice meditation.
Yeah.
I have a question about a right view.
Yes.
In terms of acknowledging that you have your parents, mother and father, what did the Buddha talk about regarding this?
Yeah, actually, we can think about as in the Kammasakata Samadhi, protecting or treating your mom and dad is a good action, and it's a good karma. And on the other hand, if we look at the Vasala Sutta, the Buddha mentions that if you don't care about your mom and dad, if you neglect them, it's a kind of noble thing. That means in practicing that way, you are collecting demerits, or collecting copper. So with reference to that, we can understand that if somebody doesn't care about the mom and dad, they can care about the parents. So that's not the Kammasarata Samadhi.
Thank you for answering that question.
You're welcome.
It seems we don't have any more questions, Bhante.
Okay.
Oh, there's one more, sorry. Okay. Actually, I don't see it. So I think we... Oh, I can see one right now. Hold on, let me show it. How can we incorporate real practice of Theravada Buddhist philosophy, introduction to Buddhism proper way in Western countries? I feel they have to develop, I know this was in Sinhalese, for real practice, so I don't know. I don't know what the letters are saying. The Chanda.
Can you show me the question, or can you repeat that?
Yes.
There is kind of feedback, so I can hear clearly.
The question is, how do you incorporate real practice of Theravada Buddhist philosophy, introduction to Buddhism in the proper way to Western countries? How do you develop Chanda for real practice?
In the Western countries, how can we develop the Theravada Buddhism?
Yeah.
Okay. So actually, practicing the Theravada Buddhism in Western countries, you can see some followers of the Theravada Buddhism, they are not Buddhists, and still they can practice the Theravada Buddhism in these countries. As long as the few steps, very simple steps. The one is that be mindful. That means try to understand, be aware of your mind and body, what you are doing, what you are thinking, what you are talking. Very simple way. And also try to develop the loving kindness and compassion. That means those are the good thoughts, that wholesome thoughts that you can practice and develop. And when you have time, think about your life. There are a lot of meditation techniques that we can follow. In every day, simply we can retrospect about our life. Before you go to bed every night, you can take a few minutes to retrospect about your life. What you have done today, what you have talked today, what you have thought today. And in that way, you will be able to understand what kind of thing that you have done, and how much wholesome things that you have done, how much unwholesome things and unwholesome thoughts that you have thought. And you can develop and increase the level of wholesome things that you are doing. So this is one way to get very closer to the Buddhism, get very closer to the Dhamma. Because as long as you are getting closer to the Dhamma, you can feel the pleasure, you can feel the happiness, you can feel the inner peace of yourself. So that is the easiest way to practice the Dhamma. And when you have time, you can develop the generosity. The generosity, it's not only with the material things. You can give, you can donate, or you can practice your generosity with your thoughts. How about if you can practice generosity with your good thoughts, good heart, what we say, with the love and kindness, kind words. You can develop that kind of practice. That is very easy, and that is very important.
Thank you, Bhante, for answering all these questions. I would like to now conclude today's Dhamma sharing. We look forward to meeting you with more insightful Dhamma sharings in the coming weeks. Let's keep our palms together close to our hearts and pay respect to Venerable Sirinanda with 3 sadhus. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu.
And also, like, thank you very much, Venerable Sumita, and also Ananda, and all the participants who participated in this meeting from all around the world. Thank you very much, and have a great future with the blessings of the Buddha, Dhamma, and Sangha.
Yeah, may you always be well and happy, dear Venerable. By the power of the Dana, Sila Bhavana activities that we have performed during our lifetime and during all this samsaric journey, become one, and may we share it with all celestial beings. May all the wonderful celestial beings, including the respectful Brahmas, Devas, and all sentient beings, receive this merit and share this merit, and may they be well, happy, and healthy wherever they are. May all your departed ones, including your late preceptors, parents, and all departed ancestors, relatives, also receive this merit. May they be well, happy, healthy, and safe wherever they are. May all of us be able to live life peacefully, comfortably, and with good health. May all of us and all sentient beings be able to attain the supreme bliss of Nibbāṇa, the absolute peace and happiness at the end of our samsaric journey. Thank you, and please keep your palms together close to your heart and say sadhu, sadhu, sadhu.